we felt that it was something that would be good for Nordhavn to branch out and provide a boat that would be ideally suited and compete within that larger section of the market. Our main focus is still the long-range cruising boats, and we have a factory full of orders and boats that are being built right now. But we feel that this will just be another addition, something that we can offer that will have appeal to people that, as I said earlier, recognize the capability and the quality and the engineering and the the resale value and the brand recognition of the existing Nordhavns, but they don't really need what their current Nordhavns offer, which is this ocean crossing capability. So it's going to be a great coastal cruising boat. It has a Category A hull, which means that it can stand up the most rigorous conditions of wind and wave, and there's a significant amount of engineering that goes into that. There's everything from the stability, the necessity of inclining the boat to prove the stability and confirm the vertical center of gravity. There's the intake airs for the engine rooms, the down flooding angles. There's the strength of the windows and the doors and the construction scantlings, and right from the get-go, this boat is being designed to have greater capability than the present offerings that are out there servicing the existing market of these coastal cruising boats. We have experience and engineering capability that is unquestionable with regard to the full displacement ballasted ocean crossing boats we're building now. But a lot of people don't realize that the head of our engineering that works under Jeff Leishman is a fellow by the name of Phil Arnold. And Phil was the head of engineering for Cabo Yachts throughout their whole heyday, as they rose up from being virtually unknown to being one of the highest quality, most respected brands in the sport fishing style boats. So Phil has that engineering experience, which he has brought to the table, and that combined with the existing experience that we have with the long-range boats, the experience we have with the Coastal Pilot. I mean, we think we're better capable to design and build a superb quality coastal cruising boat than virtually anybody else in the industry. In the 40 years that we've been in business, I mean, our first love for many years was sailboats. So we built some of the highest quality cruising sailboats that have ever been built, and transitioned into the long-range cruising power boats. But I mean, we have a passion for a variety of boats, and personally, I like very much semi-displacement boats. They serve a purpose. They're ideally suited for certain applications, not for crossing oceans, not for doing the things that the Nordhavns have done and become so famous for, but for running up and down the coast. I mean, we're kind of calling this a continental cruiser, which would mean that if you want to cruise from Alaska to Maine, this is a ideally suited boat for that. A boat that will run nicely at displacement speeds and be quite efficient, yet will have a higher speed capability if you want it. The speed and the performance, and fuel consumption and so forth on this boat, we have done detailed studies, Phil Arnold has, and used computer programs and to predict the horsepower and the speed and so forth. And we're a little hesitant to use those. We're very mindful of the weight of this boat. We're actually laying up the first hull right now, and as soon as the hull is released from the mold, the bare hull shell will be weighed, and the boat will be weighed throughout the whole construction process to make sure that we don't exceed our target weights. But generally speaking, the boat should have a top speed in excess of 20 knots. There's 2 times 715 horsepower engines in the boat, and if people want to run it hard and fast, it should get up in excess of 20 knots. Kind of the sweet spot for people that want to run the boat faster is probably going to be in the 15, 16, 17 knot range, and the boat should be comfortable and relatively quiet at that speed. But I think the majority of the time people are still going to be running this boat at in a transitional area between displacement speed and semi-displacement speed. And I would imagine that the most popular speed that is going to be the boat's going to be operated at is probably going to be in the 10 knot range. The engine room configuration that we have selected lends itself to the pod drives, but setting the pod drives itself, it offers a whole nother set of advantages to a more conventional drive train, which you'd see in most boats. The fact that we can move these engines after the living space is going to create a lot of advantages. In this configuration, we have designed the fuel tank in the boat to run transverse forward of the engine room, and there are two structural bulkheads that contain the fuel tank. The fuel tank, by the way, is a molded fiberglass tank that is cored, and the bulkhead after the fuel tank, the bulkhead forward of the fuel tank, are composite bulkheads that provide insulating qualities. Then, of course, the inside of the engine room has an insulating material that is part of the the sound deadening engineering on the boat. So the fact that the engines are located aft of all the living space, even the salon's not sitting above the engine room is all outside of the living space of the boat, is going to create an incredibly quiet boat. The sound in the engine room is going to be contained by the two structural bulkheads, the insulation, the fuel tank and its insulation, and the fuel itself. And there's just no other way that you could create a more quiet engine room that is isolated from the living spaces of the boat. And then additionally, advantages of the transverse fuel tank. Fuel management is going to be extremely easy. There is no fuel management. You basically just run all the fuel down from that tank. There's no fuel tanks, no wing tanks on the outboard side of the engine. So in this engine room, we're going to have 6 foot plus standing headroom, and you'll be able to walk upright on the outboard side of each engine. The engine room on this boat is going to be unrivaled really by any other boat we've seen out there. It's going to be a huge selling point of the boat. You can service these engines. You could actually remove an engine from the boat and never enter the interior of the boat. The area above is the outside upper aft deck, and there's a soft hatch engineered into it that's fairly easily removable. So if you ever had to remove an engine or a generator, it'd be very easy to do it through that soft hatch. And as I mentioned, for any service that's required, the technician will enter the engine room from the cockpit. They never have to come into the interior of the boat. So there's some really great benefits to the way this has been engineered and designed, and it's going to be something that people are really going to like when they actually get aboard the boat and see it. Another area that we have focused on with regard to the engine room is providing really fantastic ventilation, and the boat has 3 air intakes or exhausts. There's one at the stern that exhausts into the cockpit, and then there's one on either side of the hull. And you can see the grate on the side of the hull and some of the profile renderings that we have. Well, those side grates allow air to enter or exit, but they could run up through a plenum and over a high spot at the back end of the salon, so that if the boat were heeled and you had to start dealing with down flooding angles, the water would enter those intake vents, but it would never enter the engine room. It's watertight and has to go over basically a dam that runs 3 feet higher than those intakes. But those intakes, both the side intakes and the aft intake, have water separators or moisture eliminators, as they're called. But they also have controllable fans that are reversible, and they're a Livos. It's a 24 volt coaxial fan or axial fan, which can be controlled to draw air in or pull air out, and the speed can be controlled. So depending on the condition, you can elect to draw air in from one side of the boat and exhaust it from the other. You could draw it in from both sides of the boat and exhaust it into the cockpit, or any combination. And the benefit there is, if you've got cool conditions, you might not want to have all three of them running, or you might want to have them running at low RPM, so there's a rheostat that can control that. But if you had a condition, say you're running up the coast and you've got a lot of weather on one side of the boat, you wouldn't want to be drawing air in from that side of the boat. Despite the moisture eliminators, moisture will still get through. They're kind of really should be called moisture reducers. So if you had a situation where you've got a lot of weather and spray coming on one side of the boat, you would draw air in from the leeward side, which there'd be a lot less spray and moisture in the air, and you would exhaust from the windward side, so that that would serve to really reduce the moisture that's being drawn in the engine room. So the amount of thought and engineering that has gone into just the engine room ventilation is really worthy of mention also. By virtually anything we build right now, this engine room will be more impressive than what we have in an 86, to be honest. Well, the engine room access is from the cockpit through a raised hatch and a full height door. So you will enter it through a watertight aluminum door with a window in it, and go down 4 steps, and you'll be in the engine room. And that's the only access to the engine room. You're not getting to it through the owner's cabin. You're not getting through it through the salon floor. It's that one access. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a soft hatch above the engine room which allows for engine removal, but that is normally sealed and wouldn't be opened unless there was a need for some major service. So it's the access from the cockpit. It's a secure watertight door. A mechanic or a technician can enter the engine room and leave without disturbing the interior of the boat. The engine room is absolutely isolated from the rest of the boat, even with separate bilges. There's no penetrations or openings in the bulkhead from the engine room into the rest of the interior of the boat. There is a piping system with valves that would allow you to open it up to allow bilge pumping if you had a need to operate all the bilge pumps. But the area forward of the engine room is handled by its own separate bilge pumping system, and then the engine room itself has its own bilge pumping system, but there is a crossover if necessary. But the beauty of that is that there's no way for any diesel fuel or fumes or hydraulic oil or any of the smells of an engine room to get into the interior of the boat. The standard configuration is very complete in the boat in terms of generators and air conditioning and davits and windlasses and bow thruster and anchoring gear and so forth, but we don't have stabilizing in there. However, I would anticipate that the vast majority of the boats are going to get the ABT, the track system, which is a hydraulic actuated fin system, and has proven itself on literally hundreds of Nordhavns. If people want to upgrade to hydraulic, we have more experience with hydraulic systems than probably anybody in the industry. Virtually all of our larger boats are standard with a central hydraulic system with hydraulic bow and stern thrusters, and of course the fin systems are hydraulic, windlasses, fire pumps, bilge pumps. So we will offer the boat with the addition of an electric stern thruster if people want it, or if people want to go the full hydraulic system, we will offer that. And that will likely be tied into a central hydraulic system that will drive the fin stabilizers, the thrusters. People will probably opt again to go with hydraulic windlasses as they do on the full displacement boats, and then maybe even the emergency bilge pumps and so forth. So we have all the experience that we need to provide that, and we can quote that as an option on the boat. In terms of added options, we are planning and tooling up for a fiberglass hardtop. Jeff and I were just in the factory and spent quite a bit of time working on the fine detail of the final deck tooling. We engineered the wing doors, which are going to be they're beautifully designed doors that will provide an enclosure basically from the upper aft deck to the side decks, because we envision most people are going to look at this California deck or this upper aft deck as an integral part of the living space of the boat. So conceptually, we think that that should be enclosed with isinglass that will roll up, so you can have it open in perfect weather conditions. But if the weather is inclement, either too hot or too cold, you can cool it or you can heat it. You can drop one side down to prevent the breeze from coming through. So that's going to be an integral part of the boat. And the side doors, which are going to be standard on the boat, will close to prevent any breeze and so forth from coming back down the side decks. Yeah, with regard to the interior design of this boat, there is different considerations that that we had with regard to this design that would differ from the existing, full displacement ocean crossing version. Like for instance, all of our existing full displacement models have a separated pilot house from the the salon area. And that's always been considered a real advantage, a necessity, because so many times the boats are, in their normal mission profile, they're running long distances, and they're running, most time, certainly if you're crossing an ocean, you're running 24 hours a day. So there's a need for night watches, and there's a need for separation from the wheelhouse area from the rest of the living space of the boat. But this boat, really, it's certainly going to be running at times overnight, but the majority of the time, people's preference is going to be to run during the day and to minimize the overnight runs. And also, for the most part, this boat probably will be operated by a couple, and they'll be joined by friends on occasion, but for the majority of the time, it will be a couple-operated boat. During the day, running along, the activities within the salon are not bothersome to the person operating the boat if they're operating from the lower station. And so the kind of the requirements or the norm for a coastal cruising boat would be different than from a long-range boat. The association between this upper aft deck and the salon galley area, it's going to be an integral part of the living space of the boat. I mean, if you're sitting anywhere in an anchorage and the weather is nice, you're going to want to be outside for the most part. And this allows you to have the salon doors open, to have that aft upper deck, a part of the living space of the salon. It allows you to air condition it, to heat it, to drop down isinglass. If you've got a breeze on one side of the boat, and you can basically adjust the comfort level of that area as needed to make it totally comfortable. So we're real excited about that interface between the salon, galley, and that upper cockpit area. But then we still believe that the benefit of a separate aft cockpit has such advantages that we wanted to incorporate into this boat. So if you want to go, fish, which I love to fish, not tournament fish, or not necessarily, real serious focus fish, but if there's fish there, I like to fish, love to do it in Alaska, love crab. We do, diving and so forth. And I can't imagine not having a boat without a cockpit that gives you that perfect interface between the cockpit and the swim step and the water. It makes for very easy boarding of the boat. You enter into the cockpit with groceries. It's an easy transition from the cockpit to the upper aft deck. And I think this configuration is something we've been looking at for a long time. It actually has proven itself in a lot of production boats that have been built over the years. It's just, I don't think it's been done in a way that has aesthetic appeal, and but there's no question about the functionality of it. And so we've incorporated that functionality, and I believe we've done it in a real tasteful, aesthetic way. And I love the look of the boat, and I think this is going to be a really popular arrangement once people understand it and experience it. Yeah, the interior configuration we recognize that there's going to be people that want a 3-stateroom version, a 2-stateroom version, and so we have designed both versions right from the get-go, and we'll offer either version even in the very early hull numbers. So the 3-stateroom version, the forward accommodations are not affected. The VIP stateroom pretty much remains identical in each version. The third stateroom is provided at the expense of the combination of the owner's cabin and the owner's head. The owner's cabin runs full width in the boat on both versions, but the length is reduced, or it might appear as though the width is reduced because the bunk is transverse. It's not, or is athwartships. It's not longitudinal, but it's still a very nice stateroom in the 3-stateroom configuration. The third stateroom is a terrific area with virtually a bunk room. It has a double on the port side with a single above it, and then opposite on the starboard side there's another single. It would be a terrific room for kids and grandkids, and gives the boat a huge amount of capability, but at the expense of the owner's cabin. Now the owner's cabin on this configuration is very, very adequate. It's a nice big cabin, but you go to the 2-stateroom version, you get an enormous owner's cabin, a cabin that is would rival that of a boat much larger. You end up with a much larger head with 2 sinks. You have seating chairs within the owner's cabin. So it really depends on how people really feel they're going to use the boat, and I think there's a lot of real experienced owners out there that probably recognize that they don't really need 3 staterooms, and they will choose the 2-stateroom version for the benefit of the big owner's cabin. But then there's going to be people that have children and grandkids, and the 3-stateroom version is going to be the version they will choose. They're both terrific. Both versions have adequate hanging locker space. They've got separate laundry area. A lot of really neat features that I hope people will take a good hard look at the general arrangement plans of both boats and go to the effort to really understand what we're offering. But I think the combination of the accommodations below deck, the sleeping accommodations, are going to be exceptional on this boat. The airiness and the general feel of the salon, galley, and the steering station, how open and comfortable it's going to feel, is going to be very, very appealing. In terms of alternate configurations, we have had some people that would prefer, or think they would prefer, a pure motor yacht version, meaning that the upper aft deck extends all the way to the stern, and you take advantage of that added space at the expense of the cockpit. And we have drawn it that way, and it will increase the length of the salon and the galley arrangement, and it's a good alternative. We prefer the cockpit arrangement, but if someone is adamant and wants the non-cockpit version, we have anticipated that and have tooled up the boat to accommodate that option. Yeah, the interior design in terms of the joiner work and how it's going to appear is based on what we have done in the past on the larger boats, and one of the boats that has universally been the most popular aesthetic look was a 76 that was built, and it has somewhat of a contemporary look with horizontal grain and kind of nickel-plated polished hardware. It had use of some wall covering, which tended to break up, and lighten up the interior of the boat. And so that has been more popular than any other. We've done dark mahogany interiors. We've done very, very contemporary interiors, and we've done standard interiors with just vertical teak grain. We've done cherry interiors, teak interiors, and this one arrangement has been the most popular. It's a horizontal grain cherry, as I mentioned, use of wall coverings. There's some dark woods, some charcoal woods that have been used. And within our package, which we're providing to prospects within the Dropbox, there's some renderings that show the style of the joiner work and gives you a pretty good impression of what we're going to be providing. And then there are actual photographs of the 76 to give you a clearer picture of the joiner style and how it's all going to appear. But it's going to be, I think people are really going to love it, and real excited to have people see the arrangement that we've chosen for that. At present, the actual hull number 1 is in the mold. The gel coat's been sprayed and the laminating process has begun. And so of course, obviously the hull tooling is all finished. The deck tooling is virtually done now. It was in the final stages of polishing and detailing. The deck plug and the flybridge plug and the hardtop plug and so forth. And the molds are actually being laid up over the plugs right now, and those molds will be available for layup within the next probably 3 weeks. So we're going along at full speed. And our hope is to introduce the first boat in time to make the Miami Boat Show next year. I would say that this is just a really cool boat with great capability. I think the styling of it is going to be timeless. It's contemporary enough to be to appeal to a younger buyer, and I think that the legacy of this boat is just going to be a great, comfortable, good-looking, beautifully engineered, high-quality motorboat that is ideally suited for extensive coastal cruising and has the capability to handle any kind of weather that a person would likely get into, and provide a high level of security. It's going to have great resale value, just as all the Nordhavns have. And this is a boat that will offer a lot of what they see in existing Nordhavns, but in a boat that might be better suited for the way that they anticipate using the boat. Virtually everybody that I talk to that has a semi-displacement powerboat, they run them at not much over displacement speed, but for whatever reason they want the capability to push the throttles forward and get up to 15, 18 knots. Even though they rarely do it, they want that capability. And I can see the benefit of it. They want it, and rather than try to change the world, we'll just provide a boat that does most everything that we think it should do, and built to our standard, but provide them with the capability that for whatever reason they want, and not debate it. Just here it is. If you're going to have this type of a boat, here is something that you should take a look at that is going to offer you an alternative that we believe is going to be better engineered, going to be higher quality, is going to be very good looking, it's going to offer a wonderful interior, magnificent engine room. It's going to benefit from the long-term the brand recognition of Nordhavn. It will follow suit with other Nordhavns in terms of likely in terms of its resale value, and I think it is going to be something that people are really going to be interested in, and will end up being a part of what we do within our factories. I mean, if this boat is received the way I think it is going to be received, obviously there will be alternate models, probably a larger version. So it's just a new aspect of our business that we're real excited about, and investing in, and are hoping for a really great outcome.